Some people say like Bitcoin is currency for kings and Litecoin is currency for the people. Bitcoin companies, right, are storing Bitcoin in their company treasuries. Even countries are doing that with Bitcoin. But a lot of people, because they can't afford to buy one Bitcoin, right, they would buy a Litecoin, and it acts as the same kind of store of value and means of exchange as Bitcoin, but it's easier to use.
Charlie Lee, welcome to CoinDesk Spotlight.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Of course, thanks for being here. Now, I want to go all the way back to the beginning of your crypto journey to kick this conversation off. I know that you were working at Google when the Bitcoin white paper came out. Take me back to the moment when you first read it, and I want you to live in that moment for a little bit. Talk to me about what clicked for you at that time.
I remember reading about Bitcoin on Slashdot. I don't know if you guys remember the website slashdot.org. I read the headline about a currency that is used on a darknet marketplace, and it really intrigued me because it was not so much the darknet marketplace, but more so the currency, that the reason why they are only using Bitcoin. Because I was very into gold back then. I was kind of a small gold bug. I realized like gold is a better form of money, and that fiat currencies, the government can just keep printing more, whereas gold being a fixed amount, there's limited supply. There's no one person, one company, or one entity can inflate away your money, right? Whereas fiat, that's not the case. So when I saw Bitcoin, I realized like this is kind of very similar to gold, but it's digital. So it's easier to transact, easier to hold, easier to store. So it seems like such a no-brainer for it to kind of become digital gold.
Talk to me a little bit about getting into gold all those years ago. I think that's an important part of your crypto story, as you were just kind of outlining for me. Talk to me about your perception of money. What made you turn to gold? What was happening for you and around you that really made you think like we need to look for an alternative to the financial system at hand?
For me, gold, initially, I kind of was intrigued by just how pretty it was, that it's kind of people use it for jewelry. It just seems like it's precious metal, right? It just seems precious, seems like it's worth something. If you've actually held like a gold coin, or even like a gold bar in your hand, you can feel the weight and it feels like it's worth something. And that kind of feeling makes people want it and also makes it more valuable. And because of the limited supply, because of supply and demand, it's valuable, right? And because of the value, people use it as money throughout history. And I just kind of that kind of resonated with me. I wasn't really looking for something to replace fiat currencies.
Mhm.
My kind of investment in gold was just a kind of a hedge against the fiat currency. And it was, I mean, I didn't invest a lot in gold. I bought gold in like early 2000 for like $200 an ounce. And I've when I was a kid, I don't remember who told me, maybe it was my grandfather, that throughout history, 1 ounce of gold has always been able to get you about like a nice suit. And it's been kind of tracking that for thousands of years, right? Even now today, $3,000 will get you a nice suit. And that's not the case with like fiat currency, right? It used to be whatever, a few $100s, now it's $3,000. It's just, even like the last few years after COVID, the Fed has printed a ton of money and inflating away everyone's wealth, right? So gold has always resonated with me in that way.
I really love how your grandfather taught you a really key lesson about inflation at such a young age using gold and a suit. I wonder if he even realized he was doing that.
No, I think he was a kind of a small gold bug himself also.
Mhm. Now, I mentioned that, when you founded Litecoin, when you discovered Bitcoin, you were working at Google. and Google today is making progress on its own layer one blockchain. I'm just curious, when you worked there before you launched Litecoin, did you ever try to get Google, to get your employer to launch a layer one? Were you having those conversations within the walls at your workplace?
Yeah. So this was 2011 when I first discovered Bitcoin. There was actually someone at Google who was really into Bitcoin also, named Mike Hearn. He was one of the early Bitcoin developers. I actually bought my first Bitcoin from him. Um, he was a big proponent inside Google to try to push Google to do something related to Bitcoin. But Google being such a big company, it wasn't really interested because Bitcoin back then was kind of really experimental and like there's no money to be made, and Google's kind of focused on search and ads. So we weren't doing anything within Google, and that's also why I left Google for Coinbase in 2013 because I really wanted to focus on cryptocurrencies, and there was nothing within Google that was doing anything remotely related to cryptocurrencies.
You mentioned you bought your first Bitcoin while there. How much did you buy your first Bitcoin for?
It was $30 a coin. It was the funny thing is it was I mean $30 a coin seems super cheap obviously today, but back in 2011 it was the peak. It went from below $1 to $30 in a few months, and $30 was the kind of the high at that point, and then it dropped back down to $2 over the next few months. So I bought in at the peak at the time.
And what did you think when you bought in at the peak and you saw your investment go from $30 back down to two? I mean, did you think you were late and that this would, never evolve into where we are now, or did you kind of always have that vision?
Yeah. So I mean I didn't buy a lot at $30. I just started buying a little bit. So obviously when it dropped back down, it was a good chance to dollar cost average in more Bitcoin, right? And that's what I did because it didn't change my kind of view of what Bitcoin could achieve and how good Bitcoin is as digital gold, as good money. So so yeah, it was. When I first got in, I actually did think I was late to the party because a few months ago it was below $1, right?
Mhm.
So I bought something for $30 when it was only $1 or less just a few months ago. So I got in at the hype. And I think the reason why it went to $30 was because of the Slashdot article. It was one of the first mainstream article that talked about Bitcoin that introduced a ton more people into the space. And that's why the price went from below $1 to $30 in a very short time span.
If you think about that early experience in investing, you're thinking you were too late, and you kind of apply that to folks who are discovering Bitcoin now through Bitcoin Treasury companies, ETFs, major news headlines. What do you hope people take away from that story you just told me about their, investing experience or their Bitcoin experience?
Well, a couple of things. So one is I don't think you're ever too late. People talk about being too late on. So I've seen like what is it like 3 or 4 cycles,
Hmm.
right? When it went to like $200-300, people think they're too late getting in, and obviously they're wrong. When it went to over $1,000 in 2013, a lot of people thought they were late, and they're obviously wrong. And then when it went to $20,000, there's they were wrong if they didn't get in, right? If they thought they were late, and now we're at 100+ thousand dollars, and we're probably wrong too if you don't get in now. The thing is, in the end, it's not about. I don't see it as an investment. I see it just as a way to store value, right? It's the ultimate goal is for a place where you can park your money, where it won't be inflated away. It won't be, and yet you'll retain your purchasing power, and you can use it to buy things, right? Money is just a way to store kind of store energy, store work, right? You did some work, you made some money, and you want to store it so that it can retain the value for the future, right? Because you can't spend it right away, but you want to buy stuff in the future. So it's a way to um, kind of push value through time, right? And you want some form of money that the value would not degrade over time. And it's kind of like a battery, right? You want it to hold power over time without it degrading. And Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies is the best way to do that.
I know you just said that you're not really focused on the investing part, but just given your experience having lived through all of the bull cycles, I mean, do you have a price target? Do you think about where Bitcoin might head this cycle? And I ask you because that's what the audience is really interested in. So
Yeah,
definitely hear that you're not focused on investments and maybe giving predictions, but like, do you think about that? And do you have a target?
I do. I mean, I keep getting asked that. Obviously, for this cycle, I always think it's gonna be around 150K. But like it's just a kind of a guess, right? Like I'm always wrong about stuff. In general, people are always wrong about predictions. In Bitcoin cryptocurrency specifically, like a lot of times when people are bullish, the market doesn't go up, and when people are bearish, the market goes up. It always never does what you expect it to do. So I mean, if it shoots up to like $500,000 this cycle, I would be surprised, but not really. Like it always surprises you. And if this is like the top and drops back down to $20,000, that's possible also.
If you had to choose between gold and Bitcoin, do you choose one or the other, or are you still, a gold bug and obviously
I
a
do still
Bitcoin?
have some gold, but I'm obviously all in on Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies because I think it's better than gold in terms of being money because it's digital. It's so gold like it's hefty. It's hard to store, right? It's also hard to transact. If I want to send money to someone in China, I can't send them gold. Whereas with Bitcoin and just a QR code, I can send them any amounts of money, right? And that's very powerful. Like if someone wanted to, like even paying for someone's purchase, right? Just show me a QR code, I can pay for your purchase, and I'm on the upside of the world. And that's something that you can't really do with like the traditional banking system either, right? You can't like a lot of times your Visa card doesn't work in other countries, and different countries have different local payment systems, payment rails, and with Bitcoin, it just works globally.
Do the, or I guess, does the evolution of stablecoins change your perspective on that?
So I guess your question is, do I think stablecoin is the future and that there's no need for Bitcoin and Litecoin, right?
Yeah, or does it solve the problem that you just proposed? I can't really spend I
Yeah,
can't go to a different country and spend money, but maybe stablecoins and real world assets
yeah,
change that, makes that a little bit easier. Does
yeah. It does. It solves one of the two problems, right? So being good money, there's two things. One is being a good store of value, and one is being a good means of exchange. So stablecoin solves the means of exchange part of it, but because it's based off of fiat currencies like U.S. dollar or another fiat currency, it doesn't solve the store of value part, right? Because the base U.S. dollar could still be inflated away over time. Most every fiat currency has hyperinflated, right? Have died. So I don't expect U.S. dollar to be any different over the long span. So the good thing about stablecoins is, yeah, it makes it easy for transactions, and the best part is that you can always still store your wealth in Bitcoin, Litecoin, and other cryptocurrencies, and easily convert it to stablecoin if that is the way that if that's what the merchant accepts, right? And
Mhm.
that's great.
I want to get into Litecoin in a second because I think that it is the missing piece to the conversation that we're having here about Bitcoin as a store of value and stablecoins as a payment method. But you just said, you can store your wealth or hold your wealth in Bitcoin and then maybe convert it to stablecoins to transact. Is that the world that you see us building towards, or are there going to be cryptocurrencies that can act as a store of value and also something that people are able to use to transact with globally?
I think the future I'm seeing is people would store their wealth in the best form of money, right? Whether it be Bitcoin, Litecoin, or some other cryptocurrencies, or a mixed bag of everything, right? Of a few. And then when they transact, it would just happen, right? It's whether it's actually the merchant accepting Bitcoin itself, or the merchant accepting a stable coin, or some other form of payment. And when you're sending Bitcoin, it would just convert on the fly to whatever is needed to get to the merchant and getting whatever you're buying paid. And all that would happen in the background, and it's not something that you would actually care about. Just like how you, when you go and use your credit card today, when you swipe your card, it probably goes through multiple intermediaries to a bank to get approval. All that happens like almost instantly, and then once it's approved, the merchant will accept the payment and then get paid out eventually, and then they'll give you the product right there and then, right? So all that happens in the background, and it's not something that you need to worry about. So that's the kind of the future I see for people storing their money in cryptocurrencies and paying with it.
Let's talk about Litecoin now. You founded it in 2011. Let's go back to that time. Talk to me about how it fit into the picture for you personally and the broader, I guess, crypto and financial ecosystem for you. What problem were you solving then?
I, to be honest, I wasn't trying to solve a problem. I was just kind of playing around with the code base. Back then, there were quite a few other altcoins, as we call them, just forks of Bitcoin, and I was just kind of creating one for fun and just kind of messing with the Bitcoin code base and just create something that I thought was better than the other altcoins out there. Just something that is fairly launched. I thought that was very important. Something that was CPU mineable, because back then Bitcoin already moved on to GPU mining. So with your computer, you are not able to mine any coins. And in Satoshi's white paper, he talks about being able to kind of mine coins, anyone to be able to mine coins. And that was important, I thought, for a new coin to start off being CPU mineable, so that anyone can get involved in mining. So that was something that was important for a new coin, I thought.
I read somewhere that Litecoin was created to address concerns around Bitcoin centralization, but it sounds like, I mean, you tell me, is that true?
Not really. I mean, in terms of maybe there was some thought about mining centralization,
Mhm.
because when it's GPU mined, there are like mining farms of GPUs doing mining as opposed to just be anyone on their computer mining. But it wasn't really created to combat that, right? It was, the idea was that being CPU mineable makes it more fair in the beginning for anyone to be involved. And my thought was that the proponents of the coin are the miners initially, right? So it was important for mining to be more decentralized for anyone to be able to mine, at least in the beginning, too, so that those people that mine the coins will be the loudest voice for people supporting that coin. And we saw that being the case too with Litecoin.
So you start Litecoin, not really to solve any problem, just because you're kind of playing around. You see this issue with, everyday folks being able to mine with the equipment that is accessible to them. And then it turns into this top three cryptocurrency. Talk to me about that.
So Litecoin, when I started it, I envisioned it being like, I came up with the phrase silver to Bitcoin's gold.
Hmm.
I always saw like in history, people have used silver and gold as money, and because silver is lighter in terms of, and also, so a lot of time the coinage, the higher denomination coins will be in gold and the lower denomination coins will be in silver. We've seen that throughout history. So I thought that maybe I could create something that is silver to Bitcoin's gold, right? Bitcoin and Bitcoin and Litecoin would be kind of the gold and silver kind of pairing in modern day finance. And that kind of happened. Yeah, that's kind of what I envision it to be, and it's kind of the case right now, where there's a lot of people using Litecoin because it's kind of easier to use. It has faster transactions, lower fees, So for everyday purchases, it's easier to use Litecoin than to use Bitcoin. Right? Bitcoin fees can be upwards of $1 sometimes, and if you're just buying like coffee for $5, you don't want to pay $1 in fees. So a lot of people are using Litecoin because it's easier to use, and kind of the analogy with silver and gold kind of still makes sense.
That analogy of silver and gold has been applied to other cryptos like Ethereum. What do you make of that?
I mean, it's anyone can apply to any other cryptocurrencies, but the general idea still applies. Where I see Bitcoin as, I mean, some people will say like Bitcoin is currency for kings, and Litecoin is currency for the people.
Expand on that a little bit more for me.
Well, I mean, Bitcoin companies, right, are storing Bitcoin in their company treasuries. Countries, even countries, are doing that with Bitcoin, but a lot of people, because they can't afford to buy one Bitcoin, right? They would buy a Litecoin, and it acts as the same kind of store of value and means of exchange as Bitcoin, but it's easier to use.
Now, we talked about Litecoin kind of evolving to a top three crypto. I checked where it was this morning on CoinMarketCap. I believe it was in 21st place when we look at the cryptocurrencies ranked by
Mm-hmm.
market cap. Talk to me about that for you. You know, as the founder of Litecoin, watching it go from top three to number 21, talk to me about that journey. What went right? What went wrong? Or what were your challenges? And where do we go from here?
Sure. So I think it's deceiving if you look at CoinMarketCap. Like a lot of the coins on the CoinMarketCap are stable coins. So it's hard to compare a stable coin with something like Bitcoin and Litecoin. Right? Stable coin is just US dollar backed currency. So it's just people parking US dollar with a bank or with some intermediary and having the stable coin assigned to it. Right. So it's that kind of market cap for that is just however much money people put into that stable coin. So it's, you can't really compare that with Bitcoin and Litecoin and other coins. And then there's also a lot of, I call like VC tokens, where there is a ton of coins that are assigned to VCs or the founding team, kind of people just printing coins for themselves and they lock it away. So the market cap of those coins are kind of inflated, right? There's a lot of coins that are not on the market. So whereas with Bitcoin and Litecoin, like every coin is out there. Every coin is can be sold. There's no coins locked up. There's no coins that are assigned to founders or the founding team. There are no coins assigned to VCs. So it's a much more fair kind of coin. And I see, and for it to be money, it has to be fair, right? It's not, you can't really use some other coin for money when that coin is, there's like a VC backing, there's the founding team that printed like 60% of the coins for themselves. That's not for me. So I don't really even see these coins as competitors to Bitcoin and Litecoin.
For folks who are listening at home, how do you differentiate between a VC backed crypto and one that's not?
Unfortunately, these days, like all these new coins are pretty much VC backed, and it is next to impossible to launch a fair coin to for something like to launch. I won't be able to launch Litecoin today and have it succeed because there's just too much noise. There's no reason for people to use coin over hundreds of other coins out there, right? So kind of the time of being able to launch a new proof of work coin that is fairly launched is kind of not possible anymore. The difference is with a VC backed coin, you'll have like you have a lot of pre-mine, right? You have coins that the team mine a ton for themselves and for their VC backed, for the VC that invested millions of dollars in the team. And I mean that's the way to that's the reason why it has to be that way is because the team needs money to kind of work on the coin, to develop the coin, and also get people to use it, right? So it is what it is, kind of.
What are the fair coins that exist today?
Bitcoin, Litecoin, I would say Dogecoin is also fair. There are a few others. They're all like proof of work. I think proof of work is important for kind of fairness, right? Where the issuance of coins is not tied to who owns it.
Talk to me a little bit about where Litecoin stands today. I know you mentioned cheaper, faster, a store of value, also something that people can use for payments. But tell me a little bit more. Where does Litecoin fit into the cryptocurrency narrative? You just mentioned, there are a ton of other coins that have launched, a ton of ecosystems that are saying, we are cheaper and faster than Bitcoin and Ethereum. You can use us for payments. You can use us as a store of value. Talk to me about Litecoin against that ecosystem.
Yeah. So for me, Litecoin is and Bitcoin, the goal is to be kind of the best form of money the world has ever seen. Right. So for it to be sound money where decentralization is very important. Right. So Litecoin and Bitcoin are both super decentralized in terms of mining, in terms of people using it. One thing that I've been working on with Litecoin is adding more fungibility to the coin. So fungibility is very important. It's a The meaning of it is that every coin is the same as every other coin, right? You can't differentiate between the coins because when you spend money, the you don't want the merchant or whoever's receiving it to kind of not accept your money because your money is different from other people's money, right? Money should be the same across anything. So a $20 bill should be exactly the same as any other $20 bill. And with Bitcoin and Litecoin, it wasn't the case because people can see the history of a coin. So if the coin came from like a darknet marketplace and you send it to Coinbase can ban you and say like we don't want to service you anymore because you use like dirty coins. And when that happens, it makes sense for them to do that, but it also means that the money is not a great form of money, right? So adding fungibility means you need to add some form of privacy to the coin. And we did that on Litecoin with an upgrade called MWeb, which adds a Mimblewimble side chain, so to speak, to Litecoin, where if you move your coins to the MWeb side of things, it's more private and also more fungible. And I think that's a very important upgrade for it to be the best form of money.
That's interesting. Talk to me about MWeb versus some of the other privacy solutions out there. We're seeing folks use ZK technology. There are some other solutions to, making your transactions private on a blockchain and also, not making it public to everyone where the money is coming from and going to. How does MWeb stand up against some of the other solutions?
Yeah. So MWeb is not the best like private. It's not 100% perfectly private. There are some coins that attempt to do that. I don't think we need 100% privacy for us to achieve good fungibility. There's also trade-offs for 100% private coins. And also MWeb is also an optional kind of usage. You can always use the base layer. It doesn't replace the base layer. If someone doesn't support MWeb, like let's say an exchange doesn't support MWeb, doesn't have MWeb addresses, you can easily peg out of the MWeb side of things and send them coins on the base layer. So it makes it very easy for people to use it without much compromise. And yeah, I think it's a balance. It's tricky to get this right. So we kind of took a stab at it with Mimblewimble, a relatively new technology that adds privacy. The idea is that using confidential transactions, the amount you're sending is hidden from everyone except for you and the recipient. So only you and the recipient know how much money you're sending. Everyone else can don't know how much you're sending, but they can using cryptography, they can show that you did not print money out of thin air. Right? That's the most important thing. The reason why blockchains are public is because everyone can see that when I sent you one coin, my balance goes down by one, your balance goes up by one. Nothing was created out of thin air. But if the amount of coin I'm sending to you is hidden and you can't see my balance, you can't see your balance, then who can be sure that nothing was created out of thin air? But with Mimblewimble confidential transaction, you can using cryptography to prove that I sent you X amount of money, your balance went up by X, my balance went down by X, and also X is not negative, and nothing was created out of thin air. And kind of that is the cool technology that makes it possible.
You said that there are trade-offs with 100% privacy. What are those?
So a lot of times it's kind of the speed of creating transactions or of verifying transactions. So I don't know what's the case with something like Zcash today, but it used to be where to create a transaction it would take like minutes to actually create the transaction. The other thing is storage space. A Even with like Bimblewimble with MWeb, transactions are larger than normal transactions because of the kind of the proof that money is not created out of thin air. That proof is just takes up more space. So, and then as we know, if something uses up more space, if the blockchain gets large, it can become very unwieldy, which affects decentralization. Right now, like it takes gigabytes of hard disk space to store the whole blockchain, and if that grows like into sorry, it takes like terabytes, right? If that keeps growing larger and larger, it makes it much harder for anyone to run a node. And being able to run a node is important for decentralization. Yeah, so there are trade offs. Yeah.
We talk about the use cases for we talked about the use cases for Litecoin. In your view, what are the next milestones you need to achieve to get there? How does Litecoin become this method for transactions? How do we get to a place where vendors are accepting Litecoin, where people are using it to store value? What do you think?
I think multiple things, right? Like we have to convince more people to accept Litecoin, right? More stores to accept Litecoin. One thing that is cool is that the biggest crypto payment processor, BitPay, not recently, like a few years ago, started supporting Litecoin in addition to Bitcoin, Dogecoin, Ethereum, other cryptocurrencies. And for the over like a year and a half, Litecoin has been their most transacted cryptocurrency on their platform. Like more people choose to pay with Litecoin than any other cryptocurrency, even like Bitcoin and Ethereum, or even stablecoins. So that's very cool to see.
What's driving
Um,
that? Do you know?
I think it's just because it's just low fees, fast transaction. It's just an easy way to pay for things. Yeah, it's just it just works, right? What's important with money is that it needs to work. With Bitcoin, we've seen times when there's congestion and your transaction can get stuck in a mempool. You send someone money and they don't get it for like multiple hours, and that's not great for when you're trying to buy something. With Litecoin, transactions on average confirm every 2.5 minutes, so it's much faster and it settles much faster, and it just feels easier to use. And we're seeing that with people using it. So it's important for us to get more merchants to start accepting cryptocurrency just in general, not just Litecoin, right? Having more options is better. And then I think it's also very important for a lot of good mobile wallets, especially ones that support MWeb, make it easy for people to store money and to spend money is very important.
I mean, you worked at Google, and they ask this question a lot in different ways. In the future that you're thinking about, are is there a place for the centralized players like Google, Apple, Meta, who are all working on their own solutions, different problems using this technology? Or are you working towards a future where they are displaced and people have more options?
It seems like a very generic question. I think there's always space for centralized players. I think it's important for money to be decentralized, but not necessarily for everything to be decentralized, right? So there's space for VC coins, right? For coins that are doing different things. Like for what Ethereum is trying to do, it doesn't have to be the most decentralized coin out there. It can still be it can still be a good like world computer, letting people do smart contracts and stuff. It doesn't have to be fully decentralized. If Google or Facebook does like launches something that is like smart contracts and it's fully centralized, that's fine, right? I don't think it has to be decentralized for certain applications. But for money, I think it has to be fully decentralized.
Yeah, it is generic. I told you, I ask many people this question. I think it's important, though, for folks to understand what builders in this industry are building towards so they can start to understand how their actions contribute to, a different financial system or one that maybe incorporates decentralization and centralization, something that they've become more comfortable with. So that's why I ask it. Thank you. Thank you for
Yeah, one thing I've thought
yeah.
of is like people want to put stuff on the blockchain, right? People want to put like deeds of houses on the blockchain. I mean, sometimes it's like a solution looking for a problem. Like, there's no reason why that needs to be fully decentralized, right? Because like if I have, and it's not possible for it to be decentralized. If I have like my deed of a house on the blockchain, and someone hacked my wallet and stole that deed, does that mean they can come to my house and kick me out? No, right? There's there's no way that would happen, right? So in the end, the deed doesn't really has no power, right? Because it's still the law enforcement and the government
Mhm.
decides you own the house, or people decide you own the house, and not that token on the blockchain, right? So yes, you can put it on a decentralized blockchain. Does it need to be decentralized? No, because it doesn't even make sense, right? So things like that is interesting, but it doesn't really solve the real problem.
I want to talk about you selling your Litecoin in 2017. And the question here is, do you think that founders should eventually detach from their creations like you did? You obviously still work on the Litecoin project. Or should they stay tied to the project via holding that underlying asset?
It's a good question. So one thing to keep in mind is that unlike a lot of these other coins, I didn't print any coins for myself. So all the coins I used to own was coins I mined or bought on exchanges. So the only advantage I had was that I'm the biggest believer, obviously, and also I got in early, right? Day one. I was mining with my personal computer along with thousands of other people who heard about the project before I launched. So that said, I did have some Litecoin, and in 2017, I decided that it would be best if I didn't hold any, because I wanted to kind of act without prejudice of what my actions affecting myself financially, whether up or down, right? I don't want to have to think about, should I sell right now because there's bad news coming out, or should I buy more because I'm about to announce something big, right? So I want to remove that kind of temptation, which I did. The ironic thing is that after I announced it and sold my coins, I got a lot of hate online, and now I want the price to go up even more than I did before. I have more incentive for the price to go up just to reduce the amount of people hating me online, which is ironic. So in terms of being detached from the cryptocurrency, I think over time it needs to be, right, for something to be fully decentralized and like for people to use. There shouldn't be anyone that kind of controls the direction of the coin, right? There's advantage and disadvantage of that, right? Satoshi left early on, and it became very chaotic with the kind of the the direction of the coin. Like people claim that this is Satoshi's vision. He wanted to do this, so we should do this. There's a lot of like fighting amongst like developers and core contributors of the coin about direction of where the coin should go, and because there's no one around to kind of dictate things, it was very inefficient and very chaotic. Whereas with Litecoin, because I'm around, I can kind of help shape Litecoin's future, and no one else is going to come out and say this is like Charlie's vision of Litecoin, because I'm still here to say this is not my vision. So that's good for kind of efficiency in getting the project kind of moving in the right direction, but it's not great for decentralization, right? Eventually, I need to step away, and yeah, and for the project to kind of be more decentralized. So kind of my selling my coins is one step towards that, and I think eventually that's going to happen, but we'll see when that happens.
Were you surprised by that hate you got back when you sold your Litecoin?
Yeah, I didn't think things through clearly. I mean, I probably could have done it without making an announcement and still achieve the same goal.
Why
I
did
thought
you
more.
make the announcement?
I just wanted to be transparent. I thought being transparent was important, and also because like Litecoin is all about being fair, right? Be fair and transparent. So I was just kind of following that. Yeah, I mean, I still get a lot of hate. Like whenever I tweet and stuff, people are still saying like they're blaming me for crashing the whole market in 2017. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. But people tell me you're not doing anything important unless if you're not getting hate online, which makes sense. But it does get to me sometimes.
It does make sense, but I can totally understand how that would get to you. It sounds like, you are really just trying to build towards a future that you've been thinking about for a really long time. And to have these total strangers who don't know anything about what you're doing or what your drivers are, just saying whatever comes to their mind I think, can really affect the trajectory of someone if they don't have a good head on their shoulders.
Yeah. The funny thing is, a lot of times I get hate from people who actually got into the space after I sold. Like they bought Litecoin after I sold, and they're still blaming me for selling Litecoin. I'm like, well, you could have. You knew that I sold like before you bought in. You didn't have to buy Litecoin. You didn't have to like, but they still. I mean, yeah, it's kind of funny.
Who do you talk to anyone about the hate you get? I ask you that because I talk to a lot of OGs on this show. A lot of people have been in the space for a long time, and I think everyone can agree that crypto Twitter can be very toxic sometimes, and
Yeah.
everybody gets a level of this hate. Do you talk to anyone about it, or do you just kind of keep it moving?
I mean, we joke about it all the time. Like, yeah, I do talk to people about it. Most people who like in person, everyone's very nice about it, right?
Hmm.
So I don't think I've ever gotten any hate in person. Not seriously. People joke about it, right? But not
Right.
seriously. And online, it's just easy for someone anonymous to hate on you, right? There's no consequences. They also
Mhm.
they may not actually even think that way. It's just like they want to cause controversy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. You mentioned that for the project to become more decentralized, you will eventually have to step away. Do you know when that's going to be?
I don't know, but there's an obvious natural time, right? Because I don't live forever, so there's an obvious natural time. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, when it comes a time when it's better for Litecoin to go on without me, I would just step away. I think we'll know when that is the case, right? And also it's cool that we're seeing a lot. So it used to be whenever there's some news about Litecoin, I'm always involved. Like I'm always the one in the background pushing BitPay to accept Litecoin, pushing exchanges to do some stuff with Litecoin or anything, right? Anything Litecoin related. But we're starting to see more and more things happening without my involvement. Like for example, PayPal launched Litecoin as one of the four supported currencies initially without my involvement at all. I didn't even know about it until they launched it. Actually, I think I found out from a friend who knows someone who worked at PayPal, and they were talking about it. I'm like, oh, wow, that's amazing. So there's a lot of things happening now without my involvement. It's also great to see people use Litecoin and not know who I am. Right? There's no reason they need to know who I am. Right? They don't need to know who created Litecoin. They use it because it's useful and it's good money. One funny story is I was at the Litecoin Summit this year, and during like lunchtime, went to the cafeteria and ran into someone and talked to them about cryptocurrency, and they're like, they own Litecoin. They don't know who I am. They don't even know that the Litecoin Summit is being held like one story above us, but they hold Litecoin and Bitcoin and they use it, and they don't even know who I am, and that we have a Litecoin Summit right now. So that was really cool.
How does it make you feel when you encounter people who say they use Litecoin, they don't know who you are, that it's just working how you intended it to work? I mean, how did that situation make you feel, and how did you feel when you heard through a friend that PayPal was going to facilitate Litecoin usage amongst a small handful of other
Yeah, it,
cryptocurrencies?
it feels great, right? It feels great. Like that guy that uses Litecoin doesn't know who I am. I feel feels great for that. Even more so than meeting someone who like idolizes me and wants my signature or something like that, right? So yeah, I think it's very cool. It's very cool to see Litecoin actually being used as money. One of the earlier conferences I went to, the MIT Bitcoin Expo, I was speaking there. They invited me to speak there. I in my keynote speech, I said the first thing I said is I'm very excited because I bought my plane ticket here using Litecoin, a coin that I created, which is very, if you think about it, it's kind of crazy, right? I used something that I created to buy as money to buy a plane ticket to buy something real world. So that was like kind of it. Yeah, it does. When I step back and think about it, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, not a lot of people will get to experience that. That is a very unique experience and something that I think you deserve congratulations for. Like that is it. I can't even imagine that feeling. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit about Litecoin and the headlines or the marketing behind Litecoin. I mentioned that CoinMarketCap list earlier on in our conversation. On that were tokens like Doge, Solana, XRP, Cardano. These cryptos, I feel, grab the headlines a little bit more than we see Litecoin in the headlines. But like you said, people are using Litecoin. Litecoin is being integrated by huge financial firms like PayPal. I want to talk about the Treasury company in just a second. But when you think about Litecoin's marketing, do you compare to some of those other cryptos, or how do you think about it?
Well, to put it bluntly, Litecoin's marketing doesn't exist. We have a very small marketing budget because Litecoin was launched fairly. Like our Litecoin Foundation is a nonprofit organization. We don't hold a lot of money because we didn't like print coins for ourselves. So in Litecoin, like Solana or even Ethereum, they have a huge budget. They have a lot of money. They have a lot of money in their bank, right? That they can spend on marketing, getting the word out. Whereas with Litecoin, it's more we rely on donations and support from the community to help with kind of word of mouth to get that out there, right? So we don't have a huge marketing budget. The Litecoin Summit is one of the ways where we're trying to get the word out. But that said, I think it's cool that we have a Litecoin treasury company, MEIP, that has a much bigger budget and they're pushing kind of for more adoption and push getting the word out there. So that would help.
You and I spoke about MEI Pharma recently and the Litecoin Treasury, but let's just lay it out for the audience one more time. Talk to me a little bit about MEIP. This is a publicly listed company that is building a Litecoin Treasury, much like the companies we've seen do this with Bitcoin and Ethereum. You are joining the board of that company. Why Litecoin? Why now?
Well, Litecoin is one of the oldest cryptocurrencies out there, right? It's almost 14 years this October, and it's been up and running with like no downtime since then. So it's a very has longevity. It has market presence, like on CNBC and other mainstream news outlet. They show the Litecoin ticker symbol all the time whenever they talk about cryptocurrencies. So people are aware of Litecoin. It's been around forever, and it's just a great kind of asset and store of value. So it's a smart play for someone to come in and do a Litecoin treasury play, and I fully support it. Like you said, I'm joining the board, I'm advising them, and it's going well. Yeah, it's a we raised $100 million, deploy that into Litecoin, and we're gonna keep adding to that.
We spoke a little bit about this the last time we spoke, but I think it's important to talk about it again. When you join the board, what does that practically mean? Like, what will you be doing on a day to day? How will you be advising?
Yeah, I mean, right now we're having board meetings every week, but moving on, like in the future, probably like once a quarter. But as on the board, I'll be just generally helping with the direction of the company where they want to kind of move towards. One thing we talked about is looking into like setting up a mining farm to mine Litecoin, right? Just things that we can do on one hand to make money for the company and also to support Litecoin. So there's a lot of initiatives that we can look into that accomplishes one or both of these kind of tasks.
I know you called the company MEIP. I said MEI Pharma. Am I right to assume that the company is moving away from the pharmaceutical business and really focusing on this Litecoin play now?
It has, it will still have some furnace, like part of it will still be pharmaceutical. Eventually, maybe we'll move towards more towards just pure Litecoin stuff. It's still kind of in progress, so I won't comment too much about that, about the kind of the time frame of that or whether or not that's going to happen. But yeah, it's very interesting what we're doing and where we're heading.
Charlie, I have to ask you this. I've been waiting for this interview because I've been waiting to ask you. Last year, the official Litecoin account said that Litecoin identifies as a meme coin, and it's something that just sticks in my head. What was going on there? Was it just like a tongue-in-cheek kind of fun thing to do on social media?
Yeah, I mean that kickstarted like a whole like kind of a rebrand of the Litecoin Twitter account. I think one of our guys kind of got tired of how boring the account was and wanted to do something fun, and he posted that tweet that really kind of like that blew up. And now since then, the Litecoin Twitter account has been a lot more fun and just posting a lot of memes and just joking with other people and accounts. So I really kind of I thought it was really fun kind of change the direction for the account, and it brought more attention to Litecoin.
It really did, and it really leveraged the meme coin mania that was happening at the time. So whoever thought of that was really clever. That was a time when Litecoin was able to capture the headlines, like I was talking before, with very little marketing budget.
Yeah, it was just one guy kind of thinking it up, and then obviously there were eventually like a lot of other people in our team chimed in and helped out with some of the other tweets. But yeah, it was cool. It was cool to see. I thought it was also fun and kind of made everyone like laugh, and it's good fun.
All right, we are coming to the end of our conversation, Charlie, and I ask all of my guests on this show a version of this question. If you were to go back in time to Charlie before he was working at Google, before he discovered the Bitcoin white paper, and take all the lessons you've learned over the last 2 decades, what would you tell him?
Tell who?
Tell you, yourself, your
I'll tell
younger self.
myself. My advice for myself would just to be, I think this will be surprising to a lot of people, but would just to be buy Bitcoin, store it away, don't sell anything, and don't do anything else related to crypto, and just sit on it and be anonymous. That would be my advice.
So don't follow in your footsteps.
Correct. Like
I mean, the
creating
Bible.
Litecoin did not really make me more money. It was a lot of headache. Yeah, it was. Yeah, just if you just buy Bitcoin, keep it away, stay anonymous, sit on it, don't sell anything, it would be better off.
And we talked about you eventually, leaving Litecoin when the time is right. When you think about that moment, what do you do after?
I don't know. Go buy an island, sit at a beach. I don't know. I mean, who knows when that will be, right? Bitcoin is really Bitcoin and Litecoin. I think will go to the moon. So yeah, I I don't know, but like when I mentioned about being anonymous, I think that's kind of unfortunate that I'm not anonymous. I really kind of envy Satoshi sometimes for what he was able to do. Hopefully he's still alive, but being able to kind of walk away and no one knows who you are is is powerful. But yeah.
I want to end here. Why is that important to you? I think that is an interesting message and it can be a profound message in many ways. Why is anonymity important to you? And what would you have done differently?
It's important because like these days you hear about a lot of like kidnappings and other stuff, like people getting the $5 wrench attack, right? It's something that's always on my mind, like um, that. Yeah, people may think that I have a lot of coins, even though I sold all my Litecoins. Yes, sorry, and yeah, I just safety is important for me. So being anonymous and nobody knows who I am would be great, but that's not something that kind of exists anymore.
Well, maybe one day you'll have that island all by yourself, remote somewhere where all your friends and family can come and no one will know where it is, and that can be your version of that future.
It might need to be on the moon though. We'll see.
We'll see. We'll see where it is. Charlie, thank you so much for joining CoinDesk Spotlight. It was such a pleasure chatting with you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.